Hello and welcome to Climate Check with me, Mary Mwiikisa. Now today we're coming to you from the Hotel Intercontinental right here in Lusaka, where the Southern African Regional Climate Outlook Forum has been happening, and the regional rainfall forecast has been launched, and so we know how it will be like in terms of the rainfall in the SADC region. And so I'll be speaking with the director at the Meteorological Department, Mr. Edson Konde, on the program. Also on the show, we took a trip recently to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where we attended more insights around climate action and training for journalists. Join me on the other side. Now imagine if trees could provide Wi-Fi, just how many trees you would plant? Well, they provide oxygen. We definitely cannot do without it. Destruction of nature, such as forests, has led to irreversible climatic changes to our world. Join me as I talk to policy formulators, change makers, and climate change interest groups on Climate Check, weekly on this channel. Now you are the solution to climate change. To start with, the African Climate Journalist Training took place recently in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and this was convened by PowerShift Africa, a climate think tank based in Nairobi, Kenya. I was privileged to have been part of the African journalists that attended this training that empowers journalists on how best to tell the climate story. Now, the director of PowerShift Africa, Mohamed Ado, spoke about the importance of equipping journalists with the right tools to tell the story of climate change, as well as he gave his views on the recently ended Africa Climate Summit that was held in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Our continent is the least responsible for climate change, yet we suffer the brunt of the changing climate. And our people, sadly, are also the least informed. So our partnership with African media is to help us actually help create a better understanding of the climate issues that this continent is confronted by, so that we can be able to collectively integrate some of these risks in our planning, so that we can be able to pursue a forward-looking future where we can certainly be able to say, we know, we understand, and we're building a climate-compatible development pathway. The understanding of the African vision for climate and the defining moment we're in has now been broadened such that our African media are better partners in telling the African story. Our hope was we will be able to rewrite the African story with African lived experiences and African priorities. And our media partners have assured us they're now partners who will help tell that story. I think we need to understand what is driving Africa's vulnerability, that a continent that is home to 18% of the global population, but only contributes less than 4% of the global emissions, is suffering the brunt of the ecological and economic impact of climate change. And we don't have enough African media telling that story in a way that we can mobilize this continent to be able to pursue a forward-looking plan that integrates some of these climate risks and uncertainties. And on the important question of energy, we have 600 million Africans without access to electricity, and 1 billion Africans who don't have access to clean cooking. And we're in a continent that have vast renewable energy potential. So the question is, how do we harness this potential and accelerate the deployment of renewables so that this continent can actually leapfrog and avoid trudging in the footsteps of the polluters? We don't want to be following, the templates of the rich world. We want to be a renewable energy superpower. We want a continent that is powered by renewables, by solar energy, by wind energy, and by geothermal. And I think the opportunity is for our media to help unlock that potential so that we can understand Africa future is going to be powered by renewables.
What are your expectations from the ACS that is taking place in Addis Ababa? And I'd like for you to key into COP30 as well, what it is that you hope will be achieved meaningfully.
I think we need to take stock of the progress that was made since the Nairobi summit. There are things that we've done well at, and there are things where we fell short. This is an opportunity for our leaders to take stock and accelerate the transition to renewables, but more importantly, how we will collectively help build the adaptive capacity of the continent. This is the most vulnerable continent, and climate risks are only going to increase. So it's an opportunity for us to elevate adaptation so that we can help create a thriving and resilient Africa. And in our engagement in the global summit, we want to go there and be able to speak with one voice and be able to channel the African voice so that COP30 can actually help secure the level of ambition that is required to effectively be able to tackle climate change. At the moment, we're falling short. We're on a pathway to 2.8 degrees of warming, when the world in 2015 agreed to hold warming to below 1.5 degrees. In Baku last year, the rich world promised to deliver 300 billion for developing countries. That is pittance, given the scale of the challenge that the developing world is facing. So we need to be able to work out the Baku to Belém roadmap and be able to scale up the financial resources that will need to be mobilized and get it to the tune of 1.3 trillion so that we can afford the poor developing countries the opportunity to transition to a greener future while building the adaptive capacity. And we need a united Africa that it actually communicates clearly on its demands and in solidarity with the global south so that we deliver good outcomes for the world.
Now, recently, the civil society organizations in Zambia held a validation process workshop focused on the nationally determined contributions in Lusaka. Our staffer, Dominic Davis Chifumbe, attended the workshop.
Nationally Determined Contribution, NDC, is the country's pledge under the Paris Agreement to take action on climate change, outlining specific climate mitigation and adaptation goals, policies, and the means of implementation in finance, technology, and capacity building. However, in a quest to enhance the development of the NDC 3.0, People in Need Zambia, in collaboration with the Zambia Climate Change Network, held a workshop for civil society organizations in the climate change space in Lusaka. Climate change advisor for People in Need, Abel Musomali, highlighted the objectives of the workshop.
Which is so crucial. The participation of CSO is very important because as CSOs, we are so much, on the ground, interacting with people on the ground, at community level, at district level, even at provincial level. So it is expected that our participation is to bring out the issues that you feel should reflect in this 3.0 enhancement process. It is a crucial process. It is a national process because the NDC, they respond to the needs, aspirations, and objectives of the Paris Agreement.
And speaking at the same event, Green Economy and Climate Change Department Director Ephraim Shitima, who was represented by Bizek Chongo, Chief Climate Change Officer, highlighted the significance of the workshop.
Your presence here, whether from grassroots organizations, policy think tanks, international NGOs, youth groups, or advocacy networks, underscores the vital role civil society continues to play in shaping and driving our national climate agenda. We are gathered today not to just reflect, but to refocus and re-energize our collective efforts. As we move toward the finalization and implementation of the NDC 3.0, we are reminded that the climate crisis is no longer a distant threat.
Climate change poses significant health risks by exacerbating illnesses and death from extreme weather events, and CSOs present spoke to this effect.
Where there's a drought, people will have challenges in terms of accessing or having food security. And what that means is that people would engage in transactional sex, for instance, and this increases the level of vulnerability to infections such as HIV and STIs. So there are various ways in which climate change affects sexual reproductive health. For a pregnant woman that is living in places that are difficult to access, if there is a flood, it means that they will not be able to get to a health facility in time. Sometimes the roads, the bridges are washed away, the roads even become bad, impassable. That means that the risk health risks that are associated with pregnancy to that lady or woman that is expecting are increased.
NDCs foster collective action towards the global goal of limiting warming, promote transparency and accountability through regular workshops, and encourage greater ambition for mitigation and find sustainable ways of fighting climate change. Dominic Davis Chifumbe, reporting for Climate Check in Lusaka.
Welcome back to Climate Check. And now I'll be speaking with the Director of the Meteorological Department, and this is under the Ministry of Green Economy and the Environment, Mr. Edson Konde.
So the SARCOF idea was started in the late 1990s. And it was because of the droughts that we faced, the severe droughts. Yeah. So the leaders in the SADC region said, I think we should have something that should inform us, that should give us early warnings, early foresight, so that we can use that to plan to reduce the risks that we are coming with the droughts and floods. And therefore, that's how the Southern Africa Regional Outlook Forum was born. And so every year since then, we've been having the SARCOF. This is the 31st session that we are having in Lusaka. And so the way it's conducted is we start with the experts meeting. So each member state contributes experts, climate experts, that come, convene, and look at the data and look at the models that they now use to make the projections in terms of what is the rainfall likely to be, what are the temperatures likely to be. So it has two parts, the SARCOF, the Climate Experts Forum, the Climate Experts, where they meet and generate these outlooks, and then the User Forum. So the User Forum is now to discuss what are the improvements that are required, what's the feedback from the user communities, from the different sectors and different communities. And after that, we come up with a consensus forecast that now we disseminate to different sectors again and users. But also, this is at the regional scale, meaning that there may be some high-resolution information, localized information that may be missed. And therefore, it's always encouraged under the SARCOF that this information is further refined or downscaled so that we include localized conditions and other local effects that can refine the forecast and make it usable at the local level.
Okay. Now, we saw you release the original rainfall forecast for the 2025-2026 season. How does it seem in general, and what is it most likely to impact Zambia?
Okay, so if you saw, generally we are saying the region is likely to receive normal to above normal rainfall. So it's a range, normal and tending towards above normal. But we are also saying there are certain regions during certain periods when this rainfall will tend to be below average. And those are the areas, for example, for October, November, and December. We are saying the regions north of Zambia, into the DRC, into Tanzania, into the northern parts of Angola, and so on, those areas we are anticipating them to receive normal with a tendency towards below normal rainfall. The rest will have, like I said, normal to above normal rainfall. But for Zambia, I think the period of interest is the December, January, and February, because that's where we receive the bulk of our rainfall. 80% of our rainfall is received in December, January, and February. So if there is any deficiency there, it's easily seen, because it means it's a significant amount. Okay. So in that period, we are projecting at regional level, we are projecting most of Zambia to be normal to above normal rainfall. Okay. But also let me mention that we are going to downscale this information. Yes, at the regional scale, it may indicate that we are going to receive everywhere above normal, but there are local effects that we have to account for. So we'll be meeting, for example, under the DMMU umbrella. so that we share this information with sectors, sector experts that are going to say, in this region, if you say it's above normal, the implication is flooding. Because above normal does not necessarily mean flooding. We have to know the areas which are at risk of flooding. Even when we say below normal, it does not necessarily mean drought. It may be that our rainfall may be reduced, but it can still support agriculture if it's distributed very well. And therefore, those are the interactions we are going to have with the sectors so that they give us the implication, the impacts. What is the impacts from when we say in Chadiza to be above normal? What do we mean, or what is the implication if we say in Kalabo it's above normal? Because the two areas are different and they will respond differently from those two projections.
How different is this regional forecast from the one that was released in 2023? Because I know that this is when we ended up with the drought at that moment. Was there a difference with the regional forecast then and this one?
So every season, for us, it's like a laboratory. We're always getting results, checking, getting feedback, and always we have a quest to make these improvements. So we are always improvement. We are adding new data sets. We are adding new techniques to make sure that we improve these forecasts. For us as Zambia, the government has established now weather stations in all the districts, which we didn't have. You know, so we were only present in about 30 districts. Now all the 116 and beyond have a weather station. And that's the data that informs our forecasts. That's the data that if we miss a forecast, it's because of the gaps in our data sets. So that's the way moving forward, I think, to increase our observation points so that they help us to make sure that the accuracies, the gaps in terms of accuracy, the gaps in terms of local information is addressed. So in terms of the differences, is that first of all, like I mentioned, we are always improving. We are adding new methods, new techniques, and of course the effort is not just Zambia alone, it's a collaborative effort. We are starting from the regional perspective, SADC region, but actually the inputs are coming as far as the US, the agencies there that deal with, for example, satellites. They've been able to give us information on satellite observations. The European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasts, we are getting products from there that we are integrating. But also we are supplying them with the data to make sure that their modeling is also improved. So for me and for us, we are saying we are always improving. We are always making improvements, ensuring that the deficiencies that were there in the previous forecast are addressed. We may not address everything, but at least we are making steps, systematic steps towards those improvements.
As I let you go, Mr. Nkonde, how important is weather information for the many sectors of the economy, and also how accurate is this data? Because you spoke about how you've been improving your techniques and how you're getting more empowered as a department where you have presence in almost all the districts. How accurate and how important is this information?
So, you know, we always argue in the scientific community about what accuracy means. For us, we can tell you that it will receive 5 millimeters of rainfall, but that might not be very useful. So what we want to do is to engage the sectors, to work with the sectors, to say, yes, there are some levels of uncertainty in the information that we generate.
But this is the general picture.
But this is the picture, and how can we use this information? I think that is very key for us, so that, for example, for agriculture, studies have shown now that just improving meteorological service provision, providing climate services to agriculture sector, can have a threefold improvement in the productivity of agriculture, of farmers. And so for us, that's what we want to do, engage the sectors, understand their needs, so that even with those uncertainties, the information itself is very, very usable. It can transform the agriculture sector. It can support water resources management. You know, it can support the health, the surveillance of, the cholera before it happens. We can know it from the prevailing weather conditions. Before droughts come, we can know them beforehand. due to the prevailing weather conditions. And we are seeing a lot of demand now from sectors, finance. We are seeing a lot of insurance companies coming to see how they can design their products informed by weather and climate information. So the provision of meteorological services to different sectors can only improve those sectors. Agriculture, like I said, productivity, because even things like, because like if I can cite an example of the agriculture sector. The agriculture sector is impacted by, first of all, water itself. So giving information on how the performance of rainfall will be becomes very valuable in terms of the farmer deciding what they should grow, what crop will stand the projection we are giving, but also aspect to do with the, say, pests, the fall armyworms, stalk borers, all those are influenced by the climate. For example, we can tell just by looking at temperatures how widespread the fall armyworms can be. Just by looking at things like winds, we can tell where they are going to be transported, which areas are at risk, and therefore giving that information can help people to prepare and reduce the risks, and also the activities to be more profitable and more productive.
And that's the end of Climate Check for this week. Join us again next week, same time, same channel, as we continue to participate in dialogue around climate action. My name is Mary Mwiikisa. Thank you for watching.